Welcome to the view from up here, which is something new that I'm doing. So you are going to be the first person to do this, which is always fun. I will start by introducing you, though you probably need no introduction, but we'll do that anyway. So I have with me today Faith Masonius from New Jersey. Belmar, right?
Spring Lake now.
There's
all around, basically.
all around New Jersey. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off a list of accomplishments. All right. And then I'll ask you about them. So This is just high school. 2017 third team All-State as a sophomore. NJSIAA Group 2 champ in 2016, 2017, and 2018. 2018 NJ Tournament of Champions champion and runner-up in 2016 and 2017. 2,000 career points, 1,000 career rebounds. As a senior, you had 20 double-doubles in 29 games. 2019 first team All-State and ranked 49th in the country by ESPN. Now, in college, academic All Big Ten team 2021, Fort Myers Tip-Off All Tournament team in 22, Big Ten Outstanding Sportsmanship Award in 2023, as well as the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award also in 2023, which I believe was out of all sports.
I have no idea, but I'm gonna say yes to that.
So let me ask you this: when you think about or when you hear all of those accolades, what comes to your mind?
Honestly, the first thing I was thinking about was like, wow, I don't even remember that player in high school because I feel like now I'm so different when it
Absolutely.
comes to basketball. So it's like, wow, like that's actually kind of cool, and those things are pretty rare.
Of course,
But
of course.
sometimes I look and I'm like, I don't even recognize that player.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I mean, it's not to say that you're getting older, but it's been a while since high school, but that's just how it is. So welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate you.
Of course, I'm so excited.
I wanted to start in the early years, of course. Like in the early beginnings, is there a specific moment or experience that kind of led you towards basketball that said, hey, this is something I want to do?
I think, like, thinking back to, I think literally the third, fourth grade when I started AAU, like traveling for basketball. It was kind of just something my older sister did. And, my mom was a coach. So I was kind of thrown into it. I mean, my mom played in college, she played her whole life.
Yeah.
And I feel like basketball was just like in my genes. Like, I don't have a distinct moment where I was like, well, like, I want to play basketball, but it just happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it was just like a drive inside of me, like, okay, finding something I wanted to do. Like, I played sports all my life. I loved everything. I used to play soccer, softball, like I ran track in like the second grade. But I think basketball was just the one thing that stuck with me.
Sure.
And I'm being tall. I feel like that was to my advantage.
Yeah.
So
Now, let me ask you this. Obviously, well, not obviously because I know, but not everybody knows. You've come from a big family. The sports part of that, like how does that add to who you are today? In terms of just, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, you guys have played across your family, of course. You guys have played rugby, lacrosse. I don't think there was anybody that played tennis.
My mom for a little, but I think it was more so of a hobby,
Okay.
but never
All
like,
right.
you know.
Soccer, baseball, all of that. So I guess just as a sports family, how has that impacted your life, and what role does it play?
Yeah, I mean, being one of 10 kids, number six, I'm in the middle. So I have older siblings who their whole life played sports. So I grew up, in hockey gym or hockey arenas, like at soccer fields, lacrosse fields, just going to all these different sporting
Yeah.
events and like being a part of kind of like the sports world, you would say. So both my parents played sports in college. Like you said, my dad played rugby and lacrosse. My mom played basketball in college. So I mean, I think maybe they intended on having kids who played sports,
Right.
but the thing about my family was there's so many different sports. So it's not like, oh, like basketball, basketball, basketball.
Yeah.
It was kind of like find something where you can, have activities to go to, meet people, like have fun outside of, school or like just being at home. Um, I think that kind of just, derived. I don't even remember the question at this point.
just how
So I'm
just
just
how
chatting.
sports has impacted you, really.
Yeah. I think being on basketball teams and just being at different sporting events, I mean, you meet people along the way who I grew up playing with these people or playing against these people, and then we all flourished to going to high school, and was playing against them, and then some of them I was playing with them. And then even going to college, I still see them.
Yeah.
Like I'll see Mary Donnelly or Lola Mulaney or Dara Mabry playing these players that I've grown up with and played all my life with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of cool, just like full circle moments that like I've created these relationships and these networks, and just like seeing everybody go from the small town to being in this big
The little
world.
babies to the
Yeah,
big world college athletes and so
yeah,
much
and I
more.
think yeah, like I think it's just crazy how like watching people grow up and who they kind of flourish into being. But obviously, like basketball has taught me so many things, like whether that's about myself or like who I am as a person or like my values or things that I, value on the court and off the court.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of molded me into this person.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Put it, but how it's become kind of like made you the person that you are, which I think just sports in general is supposed to do. Like it's supposed to give you character. So it's good to hear that those things have kind of done that for you. I want to stay on those early years and really ask you: is there a story or a moment about somebody that kind of like impacted you early? Like, is there somebody that kind of like played an important role in your early childhood that kind of sticks with you today?
Um, I want to say obviously my mom.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my mom, she was my AU coach from second, whenever I started. I don't even remember the grade, but maybe from second grade up until I went to EYBL, which was my freshman year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just having her as my coach, she's so basketball IQ oriented, X's and
Yeah.
O's. One of the smartest coaches I've ever experienced, and like just her knowledge on the game has truly like gone into my brain, and I feel like I'm like a mini version of my mom, and everyone always used to tell me that my game was exactly how hers
Right.
was. So I think obviously I couldn't watch her play, but I take it as a compliment just because I understand and know how smart she is in the
Yeah.
game. And I think yeah, she was my mom and my coach, but it was never treating me like softly or it's okay honey, like like it's never like, oh, you're my daughter, I'm gonna
Yeah.
treat you a little special. It was always almost in the opposite direction, like I know I can get into you more because I
Mm.
can understand how much you can take. So because sometimes you see it go the opposite direction where
Yeah.
if you know
And I kind of wanted to ask you about that. So, you know, when I was coaching Lex, there was a time where I feel like our relationship kind of like wasn't the greatest just because I was the coach and I had these high expectations for her. And
Mhm.
it was maybe I wasn't verbalizing that the right way. So the way that I would treat her sometimes versus some of the other kids, I can look back and kind of see the differences now. How would you describe your relationship with your mom as your coach then versus your mom as the fan in the stands type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is my coach. I think she did a really good job distinguishing the two of being my coach and being my mom at home. Obviously, during the game, she's focused on basketball, focused on winning her game or,
Mm-hmm.
getting the kids that she's coaching on to college. So putting us all in the best positions. I think with her, she was able to, I'm trying to think of like the right things to say. Because like she was, I don't even know. Yeah, that's all. Like that's one thing I do want to say is like our relationship. Like she had a lot of trust in me and a lot of confidence in me as a player, which, um, like it's nice to be able to like turn to your coach and then be like look, we got to get this play for you, like blah blah
Yeah,
blah. It wasn't just because I was her daughter. It was like at the time, like I was a great basketball player on the team, and we honestly had a great team growing up, and she was a great
that you
coach.
did.
So
That you did.
yeah. But I think she at home or like, the car rides home up until we pull into our driveway, she's my coach. And then when we get home, she's my mom.
Mm.
Like I remember this story she had told me. She coached some of my sisters growing up too. And my older sister got really mad at mad at my mom at basketball. And she drove her home after the game, whatever. And my mom and my sister walk in the door. And my older sister runs up the stairs because she's pissed. And my mom yells up the stairs and she's like, hey, honey, like, how was your game? And my sister replies down and was like, my coach is a biatch, like And I think I just like look back on that story and it's so funny because that's really how my mom is, like being able to separate and
No,
yeah,
that's
I don't
that's
know.
awesome, and I think that doesn't go. It doesn't always go that way, you know.
Yeah.
Just witnessing a lot of parents that coach their kids, and so the fact that she was able to separate the two, like as you said, when you pulled up in the driveway, that's just awesome, and
Yeah.
that sounds like Ellen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been noted that in middle school you were the preteen drill sergeant. So from knowing that, it seems to me that you've kind of had this leadership with you for a while now. Can you describe kind of like maybe where you've got that leadership in those early days and like how it's kind of uh, taken you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I always played up on teams, so I was always one of the youngest girls on the team, and I feel like I don't want to say it just like naturally comes, but I think in a way it almost does. And I'm like looking back on it now, I think it was being part of older
Mm,
teams because you wouldn't think like a younger player would, like be in a role where they'd be like a leader or like step up in certain situations. And I think at a young age, I was placed in situations where it's like, like you're our voice leader, like you're the one who has to take this shot, you're the one who has to do this. So I think that kind of just, molded me into like, okay, like I can step up and do this. And I think it's just me like being an open person and
yeah.
I don't know, being able to talk to people and I don't know.
Well, that's funny you say that because I mean, um, your coach Brenda has actually gone on record and just kind of like called you like the quarterback of the team at times. Um,
Yeah.
so I would imagine that kind of quarterback communication and leadership comes from just those early days as well as just being that younger kid that kind of had to communicate in different ways.
Yeah, and I think for me, like my mom was always really big on communication when it comes to like defense or like making sure everyone's on the same page. And, in AAU days, we wouldn't have practices every single day. You'd have maybe 1 to 2 practices a week. So you have to, make sure everybody's on the same page when you're playing.
Hmm.
And, I think it was kind of just like instilled in me because when I'm playing, I speak everything that I'm doing. So like my brain is going and I'm talking the entire time so people know what I'm doing to try and hopefully get everyone on the same page. And I think that's just totally continued on, and I'm continuing to do it in my college career too.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
I think that's a gem that a lot of younger kids could pick up on, and it's just really, as you said, it's speaking what you're doing so that everybody else
Hmm.
around you knows what to do. I
Yeah.
think
I think, sorry, one of the big things that I think people who don't communicate always say, like, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, say what you're doing. I'm being like, I'm standing behind you. I'm standing behind you. Like, I got this girl right next to me. Like,
yeah,
it's things like that. Or it's just like, you just say what's literally
yeah,
happening.
no, I think that's a gem, and I think that a lot of people are going
Yeah.
to get value out of that. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to just kind of fast forward a little bit. Um, there was a moment in your high school where there was a crisis with your teacher at the time.
Yes.
Could you kind of like take us through that story a little bit? Because I think it's important just to kind of, I guess, in all of this that we're talking about, sports plays a major part in all of our lives, and it kind of transcends beyond the court, right? So
Hmm.
I think this is a moment where maybe some of those things from the game kind of took you onto this situation. Can you take us through that?
I think it might have been my sophomore year of high
It
school.
was.
Yeah, my sophomore year of high. See, I'm like, I don't know. It all blends together now. It was my sophomore year of high school. I was in a math class and we had a substitute teacher. I remember we were about to take a quiz. He has them in his hands and he was about to pass them out and he went into cardiac arrest.
Mm,
And I think in that moment, we're all like, is this man joking with us right now? Because like he was a funny guy. So we're all like, is he messing with us? So we all paused and I'm like, no, this is real. Like he just like collapsed on the ground.
yeah.
So all of us get up and I'm like, somebody sprint to the nurse. Somebody sprinting. Like it was honestly a whole collective thing. And I think it was, oh my God, it was insane. Like I think about it and I'm like, ooh, it gives me
I'm
anxiety to this
sure. Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like I'm like, somebody call the nurse, like sprint to the nurse, go get the teacher next door. And everybody's running out the room, like going to get people. And it was just crazy. Like in that moment, I'm like, okay, what do we got to do?
Yeah.
And then he survived. And as like a class, we saved his life because, you know, if we didn't act quick enough or fast enough, who knows what would have
Absolutely.
happened.
Yeah, no,
So,
I think that's one, that's an amazing story, but two, I think it just goes to again how we just are probably used to just the things that we do on the basketball court, and then we have to kind of verbalize them, like you said, just kind of talking about what you're doing or what you need to do. And
hmm.
now everybody else can understand what they need to do. So that's
Hmm.
an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. It's like, whew, he survived.
No, that's good. I want to go forward just a little bit and take me through take me through your recruiting process. I think obviously it's changed since you were recruited, but I want
Hmm.
people to get an understanding of maybe how that feels from an athlete's perspective, so that maybe even parents or athletes themselves can kind of put themselves in that situation and kind of learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, the recruitment process was long and it was hard. And for me, it did start at a younger age. I mean, I I don't even remember when I got my first offer. My mom wouldn't even tell me. She I Hearing now what she kind of withheld from me at such a young age, I realize now why she did it. And she would get phone calls, being my coach and being my mother, she would get phone calls from colleges like offering me when I was in like the 6th grade.
Mm,
But she didn't tell me. She never told me, which I'm grateful for because I would have been like, oh, like maybe I would have just taken a breeze from here on
yeah.
out. So I think the first offer I remember was actually Maryland. I came to a Maryland basketball camp my summer going into my freshman year of high school. And Coach Brenda Fries brought me into her office and sat me down with my dad. and was like, we want to offer you to come here. And I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not even in high school
Yeah.
yet. Um, but I remember just like being so excited about it. But all these like just random schools from all over, I knew nothing. I knew no coaches. I didn't know about conferences. I barely watched college basketball. So people are, coming at different angles, and I'm like, like I have a lot to learn, a lot to
Yeah.
navigate right now. And I think one of the best pieces of advice my mom gave me was to make a list of schools that, want to have contacted me, I've talked to, have given me letters. Just write them down. And I think that was kind of like, it kind of just put it like on paper for me so I was able to visualize it, because sometimes it's so overwhelming and so
Sure.
much.
Yeah.
Well, that was my experience at least. But then as I got older and then September 1st hit, I had these coaches calling me, and I'm like, I don't want to talk to these people on the phone. I'm a junior, sophomore in high school. I don't want to be on the phone for 30 minutes with random people. So I think for me, I love short and sweet conversations. It was very overwhelming, but it was very overwhelming, and I was the type of person who was like, okay, I want to get this over
Yeah.
with. Like, what do I like in a school? My mom also told me, like, make a checklist. Do's and do nots, what you want, what you don't want. And I think for me it was like feeling like I'm on a campus, being close enough to home, not too far away. I wanted to win. So I wanted to be in a winning program.
Yeah.
You know, for me, like female coach, male coach, it really didn't matter to me, but I know some people, it depends. Um, Trying to think what else were like big things. Obviously, academically, I wanted to go to a somewhat academic school. I thought maybe I wasn't going to go to like, I don't know if I can deal with Ivy League, but it is something you have to think about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just like all the things that the schools have to offer, I think asking the right questions was really important. Like the majors, what you're interested in, even like benefits that come aside. Do you get a stipend? Do
Mm-hmm.
you get meals? Do you get gear? Do you get housing? So there's so many different things that
Yeah.
went into
I'm
travel.
sure. I'm sure. And
Yeah.
speaking of some of the benefits, and we kind of talked about it before, but one of the kids wanted to know what the college food college food life looked like.
That was so funny. I mean, for us, we get fed a lot. We get fed after every single
Mm-hmm.
practice. If we do, team dinners, we get free dinner, all that. But we also get, it's this app on our phone. It's called Red Card. And it's basically like you can sign in. It's like Terp Fuel that they give you like points and money every single day where you can go and get meals at like specific restaurants and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that's nice. But I know a lot of people have like dining halls and stuff like that, but we don't use the dining halls.
Yeah, yeah. And we won't mention the dining of choice since they didn't cut that check.
It's okay. Chipotle is my favorite place. Chipotle is definitely a number one go-to.
No, that's awesome. Um, so I want to talk about going into that freshman year. All right, you're 49th in the country, and I want to know what your mindset was going in versus the reality of it once you got there.
Yeah. Um, Obviously I was nervous. It's a nervous thing. You're coming in as you're a freshman
Mm-hmm.
again. I go from being a senior in high school to being the newbie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, I was coming in with, I think it was 6 All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans on the team.
That was a
So
stacked class, by the way.
stacked. Not even in the class, but we had Kyla Charles, Blair Watson, Shakira Austin, like all these people who are McDonald's All-Americans on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm one fish in a big pond. And at that time I was a small
Yeah.
fish. Very small fish. And I think for me, I went into college like thinking to myself, do I even belong here?
Mm.
And I think one of the things that I got really good advice coming into college was find something that nobody does that will make you have to be on the court.
Mm.
So, and that's why this is bringing me back to when you were asking me about those accolades. Like, I don't even recognize the player I was in high school because my role in college shifted completely because I had to adapt to the team and to the program and to what I needed to do to get on the floor.
And that's one of the things that I tell a lot of the kids. Like, so actually just last week, one of the kids asked me, hey, I'm having trouble. Um, I'm not getting much time. I'm not doing da da da. And that's what I told him is you first got to figure out what's going to get you on the floor, right? So then once you get on the floor, then all the other things you have an opportunity for them. But the opportunity has to come by being on the floor. So I think that's where a lot of kids differ when they do get into college finally, because they're so used to being the man or the woman on their team. Now it becomes, oh, everybody can score. Everybody can get buckets. So what else can I do?
Yeah.
So seeing you make that transition and that realization early, it definitely, I think helped you, and I think it helps a lot of other kids knowing that.
Yeah, because you can get in there and it's like hitting a brick
Yeah.
wall. Every person on your team was the best person on their team in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was definitely, thank God I realized that early. I definitely had my troubles and it was hard to fit into that role,
Yeah.
but in the end I think it made me realize like I do belong here. I bring very valuable things and I can, be a part of this program and hopefully succeed.
Absolutely. Can you expound a little bit on just maybe the struggles that you encountered just your freshman year? Obviously, it's not uh, all rainbows and sprinkles, as they
And
would say,
butterflies.
and butterflies.
Not all rainbows and butterflies.
But what are some of the personal struggles that you may have had in that freshman year?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I left my family. I'm only 3 hours away from home, but going from a full house to living on my own, obviously that alone was a huge
Mm-hmm.
change. So kind of adapting to meeting new people outside basketball and, on your team, like you're meeting all these new players you've never played with, you're with all these coaches you've never been coached by before. They're learning you and you're learning
Yeah.
them. Um, but I think in terms of basketball, being a freshman, you're on a tight leash. So when it comes to basketball, there's very little room for error.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, besides the 1% of people, besides the
Yeah,
1%.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Typically, you're on a very short leash. And I think the one thing about freshman year is when it comes to playing time is it is so up and down. And you could be like, what is going on? Like, why did I just play 20 minutes in this game and I'm playing 2 minutes in this
Yeah.
game? And I think it was that was definitely a struggle. That was really hard. And thankfully I had players who were older than me who like looked after me and were like, look, this is how it is. Like, you just have to get through it. Keep your head on straight. But I think another important piece about freshman year is your practices are like your games.
Yeah.
If you're not stringing together good practices, you might not play in that
Yeah.
game. Like, even that's what my coach always tells, freshmen coming in, or even when I was a freshman, like, you need to practice like this is your last practice ever.
Yeah.
You need to do good things in practice. You need to prove that, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm capable of, because that's what's going to start to build that
Mm-hmm.
trust. You're new on the team. The coach might not trust you. So building that trust is a really important piece.
Absolutely. And I think I remember just in that freshman year, and though we've had conversations beyond that, I remember some of those struggles, and I remember some of the conversations that you and I would have in terms of, maybe getting more time on the floor, maybe feeling like you just not getting the opportunities. And I think that, and I don't know if it helped, but one of the things that I always tell people is, hey, you've got to be the best in everything. right? So you've got to be the best in practice. You've got to be the best in being the first to get the water and then the first to get back from the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's one of the things that everybody has to understand is like, you just have to be on your game, and not just on
Mm-hmm.
the floor or in practice, but in everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's 100% because there's so many things. It's the coaches notice who is on the floor before practice shooting. They notice who's the last person taking shots after practice. They notice what time you're getting to practice. Are you walking at the last second, or, are you getting there an hour before and mentally getting ready
Yeah,
and stretching and all that stuff? And even, are you going to class, or are you participating in recruiting, different things? Yeah, that's 100% right.
yeah,
And being on your game and being locked in is very important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You've led several conversations, seminars, just on the topic of mental health. And I wanted to see what about the mental health field, I guess the overall topic itself has kind of like meant something to you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was until I got to college that I truly understood how much mental health was needed and how important it was. And I think it's like the baseline of obviously your entire life.
Hmm.
So many different things can happen to you and you can go through all these different experiences. But if you're not okay up here, nothing's going to be okay.
Right.
Um, you could be doing great on the basketball court, but if your mental health is not doing so well, you won't even like give yourself that congratulations of like you're doing well.
Yeah.
I think mental health is really important. I think now even more so it's being so normalized to talk about, and I think that's so important because everyone deals with it. I mean, even if it's severe or if it's just like a little talking to yourself
Hmm.
negatively, um they always say 90% of the game or 90% of the sport is mental and 10% is physical. It's all about like the way you communicate with yourself or the way you talk to yourself, and even like the visualization aspect of that, like all of that is so important when being an athlete or even not being an
Yeah.
athlete.
Do you use visualization in your preparation?
I do. I think sometimes thinking about the future of what could happen like gets me thinking too much, but I think it's more so of the aspect of I'm going to visualize me playing, like doing well, doing good things, hustling on the floor, doing things that I can
Hmm.
control, not necessarily things that I can't control. Like if I miss a layup, I miss a layup, like
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, as a team, we do visualization, we do meditation,
Mm.
and it's it helps and it's good to like ground yourself and just be like, okay, like we're good, we got
Yeah.
this. And being in those tough situations, it's like, okay, I've mentally prepared for this already, so physically I'll be able to do it.
Yeah. I forget who I listened to in basically saying that, but it was like, and I think it might have been Kobe, but he was just talking about how sometimes he would just visualize the things that could happen, so that he was already, actually, I lied, it was Michael Phelps. So he was basically talking about how his coach would kind of do things to him as they were training, like he would take his goggles, or he would misplace one of his favorite, lucky things or whatever. So that way
Hmm.
he understood, or he could feel it and understand what the worst could happen. You know what I mean? The worst thing that could
Hmm.
happen out of that. So I think visualization is important. I'd like to do it more myself, but especially for athletes, I think that it helps them just understand, um, you know, the worst that can happen isn't really what they've
Hmm.
already built up in their mind, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely an important piece.
Um, if you had to write a letter to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell that younger person?
You want to know what's crazy? We actually do this. So every year, the seniors, write a letter to their, they say, freshman self, and we read it like in front of the team, so it kind of can like have an influence on the younger kids to be like, okay, like I can take this piece and like kind of implement that. But I think, and it's crazy because I've done it twice now because whatever, my whole extra year situation. But if I could write a letter to my younger self, first of all, I would tell myself, stop messing around in high school. I could have scored 50 every game. No, I'm just kidding. I would not say that. But I think what I would say was truly like, enjoy the time you have with people. I miss AAU basketball so much. And I wish sometimes I could just go back in time and be like, sometimes basketball is not going to go your way, but enjoying the people you're around and making memories and just meeting so many people is going to benefit you and create memories in the future.
Hmm.
And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, all you have is the memories. So I think that's the biggest piece I would say.
Okay. No, I think that's a big piece. I think I echoed that, just kind of like talking with different parents and the kids, just not taking every game for, the win or the loss or the result, but kind of just enjoying the journey that's around it. Because I know as a parent, that time goes fast, and unless you have multiple kids, then your window is going to close, and you're going to wish that you can go
Hmm.
back and do it again.
Yeah.
No, but that's interesting. Just to kind of just enjoy the journey a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, would your younger self be somewhat proud of the person that you are today?
I think she would be very proud. I think at the end of the day, I consider myself a good person and I love to, you know, just make the people around me happy. So I think yes, definitely. And basketball wise, she would tell me to step it up a little bit, but
That's funny. Um, I want to know just, and before we kind of close things up, but what does success mean to you? How would you define it? How would you describe it? And how would you kind of like, would you say that you are successful, or do you feel as though you have a ways to go, or where are you in that?
is this in terms of basketball?
Just in life.
Okay.
So let's do it two ways. I want you to define what it means in basketball. What does success mean in
Okay.
basketball? And then what does
Okay.
success mean in life?
Okay. Well, I would say success in basketball is putting your best foot forward always, coming every day, competing, not taking drills off, doing what you can do to get 1% better every day. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect, but hard work outbeats talent.
Mm,
So I think just coming in and working every single day will just lead you down that road to
yeah,
success.
I agree.
And I think for life, I think in terms of working hard, obviously, will bring you down the path to success. But I think at the end of the day, it's who you are as a person. Many people who might not have experience for like jobs and things like that, but them being a good person and just being able to, connect with people and work with
Mm-hmm.
people can cause them to get a job that they have zero experience in. So I think just being a good person overall is success,
I like that. I think
honestly.
that makes sense. I mean, it seems to
Yeah.
be working for me. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
um, real quick, I wanted to ask you. Oh man, you said something that I wanted to ask you about. Uh, uh, I forgot it. It's all right. Um, what do
I
you,
don't remember.
so I asked a couple people before we jumped on if they had any questions, and some of them came from just parents, and some of them came from players that I know. And one of the questions was, how much did you train alone as a kid, and how has that changed now?
So actually, I was the type of kid who most times someone would have to push me to work out by myself. I there was days where when I felt like doing it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for a run or I'm gonna go to the park and shoot by myself. So I would say there was maybe 2 good days out of a week I would do that by myself. But I definitely was the type of kid who needed to be pushed or forced to go do something. So I think I'm thankful that I had people like that in my life to be like, let's go work out. Like you need to go
Yeah.
shoot. Or like I'm driving you to this workout. Like my mom was like, no, go to the gym.
Yeah.
Like in the end I'm happy they did that, but it definitely needed a little push.
That happens. And how about
It
now?
Um, I think now I definitely have more of a self drive to go work out or go do things or go, go shoot, get extra shots up on my own.
Hmm.
And I think being on my own and being in college taught me that because if I don't do it, who knows what's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if I don't do it, I'm not going to be
It
successful.
goes back to that opportunity thing, right?
Yes. I'm trying to take advantage of those opportunities, so I got to put that little extra work
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Because nobody there is gonna say, "Hey, you gotta go do this. You gotta go do
Yeah,
that." So yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah. What is your support system like, and do you prefer support from family or others?
So my support system, I would definitely say is, my mom, my dad, my siblings, but also like my teammate Cheyenne, like she's my best friend, and even some of my other teammates. Like we lean on each other because we understand the situation. When it comes to basketball, if things go wrong, we're in the same situation, so we can lean on each other and help each other. But I think in terms of my family being my main support system, it's definitely changed since high school to college how, they support me and they try to lift me up. It's funny because we just had a tough loss and my dad calls me after and I'm like, Dad, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. And he's like, F that. You're awesome. Like, you're so good. Like, it's okay. And I played awful,
Yeah,
awful. And he's like, you did so good. Like it's just funny because it's just so different
yeah,
from, high school to college. So I think even my mom, after a tough loss, she'll text me and just say, love you no matter what. My mom always texts me that. She's like, love you no matter what. Doesn't matter how you played, like, you're still amazing. So I think it's so nice to have people like that in your life who aren't gonna, love you depending on how good you played.
mm,
I think that's a really important thing. But also having like my teammate Cheyenne, like we're able to, sit there and talk basketball and be like, okay, well, we can do this better next time. So having those people who can, hold you in your, what was I going to say? Like hold you
yeah,
accountable is good. But also just having the people who are just going to be like, I love you.
yeah.
Like, it's okay.
No, that's awesome. Have you ever felt
Yeah.
like your performance depended on, I guess, the support or the love that you may have received that depended on your performance?
I think so. I think so. I would say yes, but I think that's not for my true support system. That's more so of, people on the
Yeah,
outskirts. But obviously it's nice to hear, you're doing so, like when we're doing great, when I'm doing great, it's great to hear those things, but what happens when I'm not doing so
yeah,
great? Those are the real
yeah.
ones. Like even you texted me after, I forget what game it was. What game was it when I had
When you had the assists,
Yes, what game was that?
uh, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember the game.
I don't know what game it
Yeah,
was, but I was like, okay, like I had what, 2 points. I'm like, okay, I need to score more. Like I kind of feel like shit. And then I get a text from you and you're like, I love how you still find ways to impact the game. Like you had 6 assists. I didn't even know I had 6 assists because I was so down on
about the
myself for
two
only having
points.
two
Yeah.
points.
Mm.
So I think like having people like you who are like, no, like you are still impacting the game. Like you are still finding ways to help your team. And, it's just like that reassurance, like, okay, like I'm impacting the game. Like I think that's one of the hardest things for me is when I feel like I'm not impacting the
Yeah.
game. I get so hard on myself. So
as a
that
lot.
I love that, and that made me feel very nice when you
No,
texted me
that's
that.
good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And then the last one, if you could do it all over again, what would you do less of, and what would you do more of?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. If I could do it all over again,
Shout out Braden for the question. That's one of our guys at the gym. Braden asked that question.
this is a hard question. If I could do it all over again, I think I would definitely, when it comes to basketball, I would get in the gym more. I don't know. That's a hard question. Actually, this is one thing I will say. If I could do it all over again, one thing I would do more was start lifting earlier.
Mm,
Or like I think I started maybe like my junior, senior year of high school. Like I wish I got introduced to lifting, like strength and conditioning my freshman year, maybe eighth grade of freshman year. Like I wish I understood how important that
yeah.
was. I would definitely do more workouts like that instead of just basketball oriented
Mm,
workouts. So that's one thing I would do more of. One thing I would do less of. I think one thing I wish I did less of was like negative self talk, or if I didn't score a lot of points, or like telling myself if I didn't score a lot of points, I didn't do good,
yeah.
because that's not the truth. And I hate that. I still do it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. But I don't. Sometimes I think that, like, especially in your case, like, y- you do so many things that don't show up on the stat sheet, right? So, and I think that's the biggest thing that for parents they just don't understand a lot of times is that there's some things that just don't show up, but they mean so much in the game, right? And I
Hmm.
think that, and I think Coach Freeze said it one time is that I think this was maybe last year or the year before where Diamond got actually it was Diamond and I think it was Kevin Durant that made a comment on what Diamond could do and what she did. And I think it was Coach Freeze that pointed out like those are the moments that get highlighted, but yet they don't realize that or you don't get the credit for setting the screen that allowed her to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
I remember that.
so I think I just hearing that kind of one I think it's important for parents to hear, but I think it's important for the players to hear too. Is like just because you don't it doesn't show up on the stat sheet doesn't mean that you didn't have an impact in making it happen.
Yeah, and I think that even goes back to having your support system, because the people in your support system, they acknowledge those
Mm-hmm.
things, and they'll be like, I see you. I see what you
Mm-hmm.
did, and I'm acknowledging
Yeah.
them.
No, you're absolutely
So,
right.
yeah.
So, as we close, what is something that you want everybody to know? Is there anything that you want parents, players, friends, family, coaches, whoever? What do they want? What do you want them to know about you?
I don't know much about me, but what I want to say is having trainers and people and coaches like you is very important to guide players, or if people want to play basketball, guiding their daughters or sons down the right path of not only being a good basketball player, but being a great human. And you being this, like, a trainer, you impact a lot of people more than you know. Not only basketball skills, but down the road, and just creating that relationship and even continuing that relationship. Like, I think we met in college and we still
Yeah.
talk all the time. And I think it's just really important to have people like that in your life.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Of course.
Um,
Thank you.
this was fun. Thank you again for taking the time. I know you guys got a bunch of things that you guys are doing, so for you to take the time out for little old me is really cool.
Oh, well, I'm so happy I was able to come on. Thank you so
Yes, no
much.
problem. And I'm sure we'll be in touch somewhere somehow. Uh, best of luck in everything that you have going on. And at some point, I'm sure we'll talk about the sweatshirt, but that's another time for another.
This sweatshirt?
No.
You're talking about our sweatshirt. I'm like, what are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
No. The one that'll be
Yeah.
it'll be
Okay.
out soon.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you again, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.